The kind of things they're doing to families to break them up has a devastating effect, because they apprehend Indian children with a legislated act called the Child Protection Act. And that Child Protection Act doesn't recognize any of our cultural values as Indigenous peoples of this land of Turtle Island. We resist this practice. We challenge them. We challenge them in the courtrooms on Indian law, on laws of this land, that they have no rights to take these children away from their families. They'll come into the homes. The homes are up in the mountains, much like the homes that you people live in. We live on plots of land. We live on trap lines. We gather berries, and we hunt, and we fish, and we gather medicines for our yearly supply. Plus, we do a lot of trading like you people do. We relate to the land base that we live on. And all their proposals for the logging and for the mining that they have, that are companies, international companies and corporations that are collaborating with the Canadian government on how to get it away from us, so that they may take the resources. When they take the resources, they don't clean up the mess they leave. They clear cut and they leave nothing. They say they replant, but the reforestation programs that they have are kind of like a farce. Yeah, it's like a dream.
Yeah, it's much like our government here in the...
So, in terms of looking for support from people in Washington, we come to Washington because the Canadian government has farmed out some of our children to the Mormon faith homes in Washington, in Seattle, and in Utah, down the central part of the states. And the families that lose these children don't have access to any real just help in the justice system that we have to deal with when we have to go to seek custody for these children, for their families. The reason that they take these children is because they'll come into any one of our many homes up there, and specifically Maxon Lake. They'll come and they'll use the tribal councils on us. Our tribal outfits have big logging companies given to them, like the tribal leaders, to log the lands, and sawmills to cut the lumber up. So they're getting kind of like bought off on the people, the real people that live on the land and live with the land are getting kind of like taken by the corporations and their greed and all their money. The main objective of our visit to Washington, to the Barter Faire, is to raise consciousness and to gain support and to work together, because what they're going to do next after they clear-cut log is they're going after heavy metals. They've already got their applications in for uranium mining and for molybdenum mining. And like the moratorium was a 10-year moratorium in BC, was lifted last year. So like it's open to them, and like they're going to do anything in their strength to go ahead and go about it. But we have a confederacy in BC that we work together with all tribes in the perimeters of what is known as the BC borders. We are forming alliances in the international community to ask them to write letters to the members in Parliament, to the provincial government, to recognize our rights as Indigenous people. Some of the members of the families that have resisted with us are being shot, blown away by the authorities. 2 weeks before we come down here, a young man. He was about 17 years old. He was living in one of the plots of land that we're fighting for. He was shot in the head and dug out of a ditch beside the highway near Prince George, and that's like about 300 miles from where we live. And there's other members that are working with us. They're getting the same treatment they're getting sought at by the authorities. It's a scare tactic, a tactic that has some sort of a meaning to the authorities, because that gives them the upper hand to go ahead and start framing some of these younger brothers that are resisting by putting guns in their rigs and then pulling them over and then charging them for an outrageous charge and giving them a $20,000 bail for a gun that was planted in their rig. This is what we call covert action up there. So we have some cases against the companies that are involved. One of them is Alcan, that flooded the lands that we live on. In the 50s, they relocated us and put us up into the mountains, and now they're in the process of relocating us again because they want a uranium mine. They want a molybdenum mine up there. I'd like to give thanks to all you people for having us here at your barter fair here, and it's a pleasure to know that we've got a lot of brothers and sisters out there that'll support us and help us out every time we come down. We are seeking refuge in your country because, or in this part of this continent, because in Canada my whole family's been wiped out on their computer system. It leaves us no status in that province of BC. We don't have any identification because they wiped us out on their computers. We can't very much do register a car or anything like that to continue our work, so we're down here looking for a car that we can register in Washington.